Erin Schiavone, and this is for class 504, Unit 5. The chapter I am presenting is Affect and Emotion in a Restorative School by Graham George. Shame and guilt are two members of a larger family of self-conscious emotions, so called because they rely on the individual's ability to reflect and evaluate the self by reference to a set of internal or societal standards. In much of the psychological literature, the two terms are used almost interchangeably and are included in the group of moral emotions, as they are presumed to inhibit undesirable behaviors and encourage positive, altruistic, prosocial behaviors. In this way, shame, guilt, embarrassment, and pride function as an emotional, moral barometer, providing immediate and salient feedback on our social and moral acceptability. This chapter presents the compass of shame. So in one part of the compass has withdrawal, is isolating oneself or running and hiding. Another shame response is attacking self, putting self down. Another shame response is avoidance. That can be denial or abusing drugs and alcohol, distraction through thrill seeking. And then the fourth shame response is attacking others, turning the tables, blaming the victim, lashing out verbally or physically. Shame and guilt are self-conscious emotions, and they disrupt societal standards or moral standards. These responses provide feedback on social and moral acceptability. Guilt revolves around behavior and action. Shame involves internalizing and attacking self. And these are evaluating a set of standards socially or emotionally. These reactions, these shame responses, can be a sum of our previous experiences, especially trauma. Shame reflects on themselves as a human, as people. Guilt reflects on the specific behavior. Shame can be most painful because it involves the self. And when dealing with guilt, people are more likely to confess because it has to deal with the behavior and not themselves. Shame, they're more likely to deny because shame involves reflecting on self rather than the behavior. This compass of shame, these shame reactions, shame responses, withdrawal, attack self, avoidance, and attacking others, these are responses that enable us. And in this chapter, it explains that group-based shame is more likely to make amends because the number of people that have been affected. Another quote from this chapter: at the heart of ASP and key to the functioning of an effective school is Tompkins' central blueprint for motivation, in which we are believed to be happiest and healthiest when we are achieving the following in a balanced way. 1, maximizing the positive affect. 2, minimizing the negative affect. 3, maximizing the expression of affect or minimizing its inhibition. And 4, maximizing the power and ability to achieve. 1 through 3. Another quote from this chapter, chapter 9, teaching is emotional labor. It is not just cognitive work. It is not just instruction, and students are not just machines to be topped up with knowledge. Teaching is moral work that is attempted by fallible and very human people as a service to other fallible and human people still developing fully into the adults that they will become. Teachers have hopes, dreams, fears, and disappointments, and so do their students. They are emotional beings. Teachers who are able to understand themselves, their colleagues, and their students can help ensure that the mini society that is their classroom and their society, which is their school, will flourish. The previous slide talks about maximizing the positive and finding the motivators. Extracurricular activities such as assemblies, sports days, spirit weeks, art shows, caroling, and other events bring community together. This is something that my school that I currently work in participates in, and it's cool to see how the kids, come together and plan events and be involved in the community. And it's a positive, memorable thing, and builds the school community by planning the events and getting the students involved. If you don't know what motivates you, how can you understand yourself and your actions? Finding out what motivates the students, understanding their positive strengths, and building on that. Some students do have a hard time hearing positive because they struggle with insecurity and they do have built up trauma. And sometimes with the positive, we can see a shame response. On the previous slide, this is the central blueprint for motivation. Maximizing positive affect, minimizing negative affect, maximizing the expression of affect or minimizing its inhibition, and then maximizing the power and ability to achieve 1 through 3. So here's another quote that relates to that. It says, following this blueprint helps create among students a sense of belonging and significance by maximizing the positive affect that binds Pajim together in shared interest and minimizing the negative affect that isolates or separates them. All the usual ways in which school build community, for example, through team activities, sport, and extracurricular activities, parades, assemblies, rallies, are really attempts at encouraging a sense of belonging and significance through application of this blueprint. In the school I work with, we hosted caroling events, we hosted a prom, we hosted Spirit Week for Thanksgiving. We have the kids bring in food and have a feast. We have an end of the year picnic. So there's lots of ways that the school that I work in brings the community together. And also, follows that central blueprint and maximizing the positive. Some self-reflection, some questions that came up when I was watching the video is, when you feel your best, what are you doing? And what do I do in a negative mindset? So as educators, it is always important to, self-reflect. Guilt and shame are self-conscious emotions, so we need the ability to self-reflect. So the questions are, when you feel your best, what are you doing? Reflecting personally, I'm participating in self-care, stretching, walking, watching a movie, being with my dogs, creating art, creating music. Also, I feel best when I'm feeling valued, when I am heard and understood. Also, there's a question in, what do I do in a negative mindset? So thinking and reflecting on my shame responses in the compass of shame. In a negative mindset, what do I do? I have ruminating thoughts, replaying emotions, more so going inwards. So probably more that attacking self. And that especially is prevalent when I am feeling unheard or not valued. Some takeaways from this chapter 9. There is a contrast between educational psychology, because educational psychology, there's little focus on relationship building and how we function as humans who are flawed, and our drive to repair harm and make things right by community and building those relationships. So there's educational psychology, how we learn, auditory, visual, kinesthetic, but with restorative practices, that is the big part of repairing harm and making things right by community and relationship building, and understanding that we are flawed as humans. Another takeaway is that teaching is emotional labor. It's not hard labor. There's a lot of diversity using restorative practices. It can be emotionally exhausting when you're always thinking about maximizing the positive, and always, reflecting on your own responses as a fallible human. So it is emotionally exhausting. Teaching is moral work. It's not all book work and tests and homeworks and grades. And it revolves a lot around moral work. So the shame and guilt, reflecting, understanding your bias. Another takeaway is reflecting on my bias and my need for perfection. My shame response as attacking self, and always, working my best to build relationships and reflecting on my biases as a person. And that humans are fallible, and knowing that people make mistakes and it's okay, and it's all about, building community and relationship building and repairing the harm that has been made.